right? Every good English major has to have the Norton Shakespeare. I genuinely do like Shakespeare, though. My favorite plays are the tragedies. I find the comedies, again, unbelievable and not really funny. Not that they're supposed to be funny for a comedy, but a little bit too neatly tied up in a bow at the end, not as realistic. The tragedies are more like real life and bring out more of those complex human experiences. So Hamlet is my hands down favorite. I teach that to my 11th graders every year. Romeo and Juliet I teach every year in 9th grade, and while this of course is full of coincidences and star-crossed fate and star-crossed lovers, I do really, there's some beautiful lines in here as well, and I do really like the story behind that as well. And Othello too, again, incredibly sad, but really touches on some genuine human emotions and experiences, and so that's why I like Shakespeare. Another author that I haven't read too much of, but this particular book I really loved and always remembered, is An American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser, which is a fictionalized book, but is based on an actual murder that happened in upstate New York, not far from where my parents have a house, actually. So I find it fascinating that he took a news story about a murder and turned it into this book, which again is just heart-rendering, really draws you in, and really is a page turner. And for a book this size, that's something worth saying. So I really liked that story as well. And the last author, I also have Cisneros on there, Sandra Cisneros. I've had a love-hate relationship with The House on Mango Street. I read that book in high school and hated it, read it in college and hated it. Got to my first year as a teacher, it was on the book list that we were allowed to choose from, and because I was a first-year teacher overwhelmed with many things to do, I thought, I really don't like this book, but it's one of the only ones I have read before. I'll do that one. And for the first 4 years I taught it, I still didn't like it. Of course, I didn't tell my students that, but over time, I've really come to love that book, and I've come to appreciate the style of writing, the poetic quality to her prose, the different ways that she very succinctly tells stories in a short amount of space. And also, again, the realistic nature of these characters, which were based on real people, but is fictionalized as well. And so now, 15, 16 years later, I really love that book, and I still teach it every year to my 9th graders, and I think it makes me a better teacher that I'm able to say to them, hey, I really didn't get this at first, but now I get it, and let me show you how my understanding evolved, and here are some of the things I didn't notice at first that now I really notice. And so every year I use that book as a bridge to get them to experiment with their own poetry and their own poetic styles, similar to the way that she does. And then the last author that I'm going to talk about is Bill Bryson. A Walk in the Woods is one of his books that I really liked. The book that I actually even liked better than this one is In a Sunburned Country. So he's a travel writer and writes nonfiction about his experiences going to these different places. I love Bryson because he's just so hysterical. He's so funny. And he has a way of taking things that are real and true and just spinning them or talking about them in ways that are completely entertaining. So I'm going to read a short excerpt from the beginning of this book, A Walk in the Woods, which is his experience attempting, as a middle-aged and rather out-of-shape man who's not used to physical activity, he attempted with one of his friends to walk the Appalachian Trail, its full length. And so at the very beginning of that journey, he talks about what he had heard about the Appalachian Trail before he embarked on that. So he begins on page 5. So I decided to do it. More rashly, I announced my intention, told friends and neighbors, confidently informed my publisher, made it common knowledge among those who knew me. Then I bought some books and talked to people who had done the trail in whole or in part, and came gradually to realize that this was way beyond anything I had attempted before. Nearly everyone I talked to had some gruesome story involving a guileless acquaintance who had gone off hiking the trail with high hopes and new boots and come stumbling back 2 days later with a bobcat attached to his head or dripping blood from an armless sleeve and whispering in a hoarse voice, "Bear!" before sinking into a troubled unconsciousness. The woods were full of peril, rattlesnakes and water moccasins and nests of copperheads, bobcats, bears, coyotes, wolves, and wild boar, loony hillbillies destabilized by gross quantities of impure corn liquor, and generations of profoundly unbiblical sex, rabies-crazed skunks, raccoons and squirrels, merciless fire ants and ravening blackfly, poison ivy, poison sumac, poison oak, and poison salamanders, even a scattering of moose lethally deranged by a parasitic worm that burrows a nest into their brains and befuddles them into chasing hapless hikers through remote sunny meadows and into glacial lakes. He's just hysterical, and he's written many books. I've not read most of them, but I look forward to reading them in the future. I would pretty much read anything that he wrote because I just love his writing style. And those are some of my favorite authors.